So we are moving on to something a little bit different. This has to do with selections. And so I have put together a worksheet for you. Your worksheet is going to look like this, Mr. Potato Head or Mr. Produce Head. And so you're going to have a worksheet that looks like this. In addition to this, we are going to create new. So I will go back to my home page and I will click create new. I will go to print. I will choose letter, 8.5 by 11. I'm going to call this Mrs. C, Mr. Produce Practice, because this is just a practice piece. This is not your final project. And it's already set at 300. Everything else looks good. So I will hit click create. So I have two items right now on my interface. I have the Mr. Produce practice instructions, and I have this blank document. I really want to see both of them. So I'm going to go to Window, I'm going to go to Arrange, and I'm going to go to 2 up vertical. When I do this, I now have both screens to work with. And whichever screen I'm working on is the screen where the tools will apply. So I'm going to be using this, but when I eventually close this down, it's going to look exactly the same. I'm not really going to make any changes to this. This is just where I'm getting all of my materials. So when I click on this page, okay, you can see there's my background right there, and it's locked. I would like to have an unlocked version, which means my background will never change. So no matter what problems I might have working with this, I'm not going to destroy the original. So the original is locked. I'm going to go to layer, and I'm going to go to duplicate layer. And when I do that, it says background copy, and that's fine. I can just leave it called background copy. Now you see this one is not locked, so I can now do the things that I need to do to this version. This version will not be hurt in any way. You can see that the selection is highlighted there, and I don't want it to be, so I'm going to okay, going to click off of it, and it's highlighting again. Deselect layers. There we go. Okay, so I didn't want that bounding box around it, so I went to select, and then I had the option to choose deselect layers, and that's what I chose. A lot of times we will be using the deselect tab, and of course when we're actually able to use shortcuts, we will be able to use Control D, which will be for deselect. All right, so you're going to learn some really cool tools today. I've taught you how to use the tool, and I'm going over here to show you the object selection tool. And anytime you click the object selection tool, if you recall, you're always able to use select subject. And so that's a pretty handy one to have. But there's so many others that you can use. And so we're going to start with the magic wand tool. And so if I go to the tools, and if I scroll down, I can see that it is the third one available to me. So I'm going to click on that one. And when I go over here, of course, you have to make sure your layer is highlighted. If your layer is not highlighted, your tool will not show up. And I can tell my tool is there because it looks like a magic wand. And I'm going to take a look really quick at the point sample, which means this is going to be picking things out by the pixel, and the tolerance is 50, which is a decent number. And as I start clicking on my potato, you can see that areas of the potato become part of the selection. Now there are some small little pieces, especially with a potato, where the color is a lot deeper than the potato itself, so it doesn't want to select those things. So sometimes I have to click directly on those items. If I don't get all of it, I'm going to have white space where those little pieces are. So I do want to make sure I get all of them, but it's important that you're clicking on the pieces themselves. If I feel that I need to increase my tolerance, I can increase it. There's a risk sometimes in increasing it. If I click, right now things seem good, don't seem to have any problems. I'm still clicking and now I have a problem. If you notice, the marching ants are now surrounding the entire page, but there is a quick solution. I go to my history tool and I simply go to the move that I made right before that. So with that being said, I'm going to stop here, and this is going to be my selection. I'm going to go to my tools, hit move, okay? And just like other things, I'm going to be able to drag this potato up. I can drag it across to my other document, which is just a plain white piece of paper. And if I want to scroll over to see what I have over here, now I have this potato just kind of sitting there ready for whatever I may want to do with him. And since I've got him here and I can see the layers now on this selection, because this is the selection that I'm using, I can click on this and I'm going to just put in potato so that that is labeled, and as I begin adding more pieces to this, I won't get confused as to what is on each layer. So I'm going to bring this back over, just slide it back over, and I'm going to start going through each of these vegetables and fruits. I'm going to begin with the lasso tool. The lasso tool is over here, looks like a lasso. One little issue, if you look at my layers panel, you see a potato and you see a background. That means I am not currently on this screen, so I have to click on it. Now you can see there's the background copy, there's the background. I am now back on this sheet. So even though I could see it, I wasn't actually on it, but I am now. I'm going to go to select and deselect because I'm done with the potato, and I'm actually going to hit deselect layers as well. Okay. All right. Actually, I didn't need to do that, but there we go. All right, we're going to move on to our next item, and I'm going to start with the apple. And so this is the lasso tool. I'm going to click on it. And it depends on what part of the apple you want. Maybe you want all of this. Maybe you only want the slice of the apple. It's really up to you. But you left click your mouse, and the pointer is where you're able to draw around your object. Now, the one thing I don't want you to worry too much about is how close you get to the apple. You might not do it perfectly. That's okay. Come around until your pieces touch, and if you do that, you can see that you've selected that apple slice. Now, there is some white showing. If I don't want that white, I go to, if you look at these options here, this is your original selection. This is when you want to add to your selection, and this is when you want to take away from your selection. Okay? And so if I want to take away some of that white, if I want to try this area again, I can kind of come in here and just sort of take out that area. And so hopefully I've removed what I no longer want. If it's not perfect, what I love about doing these types of things is it's never really a big deal because we actually have an eraser tool where we can clean things up. So if it's not perfect, don't stress. just go to your move tool, start dragging your apple slice up and down. You can see the apple. If I slide this over, there's my apple. Right now, I don't care where anything is going. I'm just leaving it there. I'm going to name it so I know what it is later. Sometimes it's hard to recognize what things are once you get a lot of items on the page. And I'm going to go back to my produce page. I'm going to slide this over. I want to deselect the apple. I'm no longer working with the apple. The next thing I want to work with are these olives. Now there's really a couple of different ways I can do this. I have here the elliptical marquee tool, and that would be the circle that you see right here. And I can use that. That would be perfect for this particular olive, because this particular olive is pretty round, and depending on what I want to use it for, if I want to add a little more to it, I can create another circle. That circle kind of blends in with the circle I just created. Add another circle, and as I add more circles, I begin to get the full olive. There is that little section there. I can wait and erase it, or I can just go to the lasso tool, keep it on these two where you have the black and the white, meaning you are removing part of what you have in your selection. So I'm just going to remove that part, and that's close enough. So now I'll go to my move tool. If it helps you to see the other page, maybe kind of scroll over just a little bit, go back to your olive, drag it up, drag it over, drag it down. Okay, and now my olive is in place. And since I'm naming things as I go, you can see the layer right there. It says layer 1. I'm going to name that olive. Okay, so I'm going to hit deselect. And then I'm going to go back to my my produce. All right, again, deselect. I'm done with that olive, but maybe I want this olive too. Well, I would use a different tool, I believe, for this particular olive. So instead of using the elliptical marquee, for this one I'm just going to use the lasso tool. I think I'm going to have an easier time because this shape is not a perfect circle. I'm just going to go around it as best I can, and then when it comes together, I've selected that olive. Again, I will go to the move tool. I will then select that olive. I will come up, I will come over, I will come down, I'll slide this over, move this a little bit. It is currently called layer 1. I'm going to call it olive 2. Eventually we're going to be doing a project where you're going to be able to create something a whole lot more creative than this, and you'll be able to select your own vegetables and fruits and all the things that you might want to select. But for now, this is really just about teaching you how to use these various selection tools. So everything is deselected. I don't have anything I need to select. So here we have this piece of kiwi, and it says to use the marquee tool. And if I use the marquee tool, the marquee typically makes a bit of a circle. I usually start somewhere outside of it, and I need to double check, make sure that layer's in. Let me click that again, I see I'm ready. I see that my piece is highlighted. Ah, I see the problem. My olive is still selected. I don't want my olive to be selected, so I need to hit deselect. That's why I was not able to make the elliptical tool work for the kiwi. It was still set on the olive. So sometimes you just have to check. When things aren't working, there's always a reason, and you just have to look around and see, okay, what did I forget to do? So now when I start to make a circle around this kiwi, I'm not going to have any trouble. And again, if I want to add to this, it's already set on add. I could have had it here, but it's already set on add. I can just maybe add more of a circle to this, overlap it slightly. You can see that every time I do that, I'm simply adding to what's here. It might turn out that I end up adding something that I don't want to add. And so that can, if that happens, then I just won't worry about it. You can use multiple tools. I might decide, you know what, I'm going to jump in here with the lasso tool now, and instead of subtracting, I'm going to add, which means I'm going to add just this little section, and I'm going to overlap what I already have so that they become one. And so now that whole selection is ready to be moved. I'm going to click my move tool. I'm going to drag it up, drag it over, drag it down. All right, slide this over, move my little piece of kiwi, name my kiwi, and I'm going to deselect my layers. Right? Time to go back to the produce. So it's a back and forth thing I'm doing here. Okay? And when you did your collages, you were bringing in photographs, and that is what you're going to do for the project. You're going to bring in photographs. This lesson is simply to teach you how to use these various selection tools, because you're going to want to use different tools for different things, and it kind of depends on what's behind the things that you're using. Some of the things that you might be using might be perfectly nice and have a white background, but you might find something like these olives where they're surrounded by other things, and so you can't just hit select subject to get what you want. So that's why all of these other tools exist. The magic wand tool is a great tool, and this is especially great if this cucumber had been surrounded by a lot of other things. This magic wand tool, set right now at 70, is nicely picking out the greens. Okay, and I clicked on the outside of the cucumber so that I could also get the skin of the cucumber. All right, so the whole thing has been selected. I used the magic wand tool. Again, it looks like a magic wand. I select the move tool. If you want to see where you're moving this to, just slide your page over, left click, drag up, drag over, drag down. There's your cucumber. And right now I haven't started assembling this little potato man, but I'll probably just put them together real quick so you have some ideas on what you might be able to do with him. All right, so right now layer 1, I want to call it cucumber. I want to deselect all of the layers. I want to go back to all of my vegetables and fruits. I want to make sure I've got this selected, because right now this is what I need to see. I need to see this whole paper. I don't need to see all of the individual pieces that I've cut out. You can see that my cucumber is still selected, so I need to deselect. Okay, Now that I've deselected, I can move on to my next one. I love this quick selection tool. If you go to the quick selection tool, that would be the middle one here, you will find that as you click inside and just gently kind of follow the object, it picks out what you're trying to pick up, assuming of course your colors are different enough. Now if your bow tie there happened to be on a yellow background, it might not have been so easy, but that was pretty easy. Again, I'm going to go to my move tool. I'm going to drag my bow tie up, over, and down. I'm going to slide this over a little bit so that I can see the page. Again, I don't care right now where anything is. I can arrange things later. I'm going to name this bow tie, and I'm going to click deselect layers. I'm going to slide this back over, and I need to deselect the bow tie here. So remember, we are toggling between two different pieces here. So you have to always remember, which one am I on? If you're not sure, look at your layers. Your layers tells the story. That tells us that this is where we are right now. So I'll hit select and deselect. All right, so we've gotten just about everything. Still some things to go. Let's try the Polygonal Lasso tool. So with the Polygonal Lasso tool, the regular lasso tool looks like this. The Polygonal lasso tool is based on angles. So basically, I will stop and click, stop and click, stop and click, stop and click, and I'll just do this all the way around the object that I want to select to move. Since I want this to be a hat and not actually a mushroom, I'm just going to eliminate the stem of that mushroom. And I keep going around, and I keep going up. And of course, anytime you want to fix things, you can always fix things using the regular lasso tool. But for the most part, that's perfectly fine. I'm going to click the move tool. I'm going to slide the top of this up, I'm going to slide it over, and I'm going to slide it down. And I'm going to, of course, move this over slightly so that I can name it, and I'll call that mushroom. All right, now I'll go to select, deselect layers, and move on to the next item. I like the magnetic lasso tool. It's kind of fun, and if you notice, this piece of parsley has a lot of little edges to it, so it wouldn't be very easy to use, say, a lasso tool to grab it. It would be a little bit difficult to get all those teeny tiny little edges. So if I use the magnetic lasso tool, the magnetic lasso tool is going to cling to what it sees. And so if I simply keep clicking as I go around, it's finding the edges for me. So I don't have to look for the edges as much as I did when I used the Polygonal Lasso tool. So this one, you can see it's looking for places. In fact, it's putting marks in there for me. And if I just gently glide along, it is looking for points. And I'm not holding my left mouse anymore. Now I'm letting it make all the decisions. I'll click at the end so that it comes together and my selection is made. I'll go to my move tool and I will slide it up, slide it over, and slide it down. Okay, and I'm going to move this out of my way. I'll just move this little piece of parsley over here, and trust me, I'll figure out something to do with that parsley soon enough. I will name it. Whoops. Parsley. I will deselect it. I'll slide over here, and then you can see I still have the other worksheet up. So I've got to click on the tab here so that I'm back at my background copy in my background. My parsley is still highlighted. I don't need it to be highlighted, so I'm going to deselect it. All right, just a couple more to go. We're going to do the magic wand again. Again, when you click on the magic wand, it tends to pick up everything for you. And I have it set on 70 tolerance. If I don't want the shadow aspect of this and I want to eliminate that, I can click here where I have the black and the white together. That means I'm removing some, and I can just sort of click where that area was, and now it's taken that part out. And if I now go to the move tool, I can slide this up, slide this over, and slide this down. And now I have eggplant, which I don't like at all, but it's probably very good for you, so don't listen to me. All right, I want to name it eggplant. We only have a couple left. We have our blueberries here, but of course I'm not on that page, so I need to make sure I get to that page. Let me just really quick see if I deselected over here. Nope, I didn't. So while I'm still on that page, I'm going to deselect those layers. I'm going to slide this back over. I'm going to make sure everything is deselected here. Of course, I'm not even on that page. Now I'm on that page. And yes, the eggplant needs to be deselected. So I'll hit deselect. We're down to a few items. The blueberries, I really didn't want all three of them. I just really wanted one blueberry for, who knows, an eye, something. So if I try that, I don't really think I got the circle the way I want it. So I'm going to go to my history panel, and I'm just going to go back one, and I'm going to try it again. So there we go. There's my, there we go. That's going to be better. Sometimes you have to start higher and to the left. I could have probably started a little higher still. I can add to this. The only problem with adding to it is when I add to it, it's adding to it with circles. If I add to it using my lasso tool, just make sure you've got the two together. That means you're adding more. And so if you want to add more to this, just draw what you want to add, but you've got to enclose the whole thing, and then it mixes those together. And so now it becomes one selection. So I will again slide it up, slide it over, slide it down. You can see it just barely in the picture there. And I will kind of move it down here a little bit. Then we have one left. And this one's going to be easy. The quick selection tool. I'm going to click on the quick selection tool and whoops, make sure I'm there first because I'm not on the right page. So let me get on the right page. Let me deselect my blueberry. I'm done with the blueberry. And let me again go to my quick selection tool. I was getting a little anxious there, so that was my fault. Okay, so now when I click, that whole cherry sort of highlights. The quick selection tool sort of looks for pigments that are the same, and so if I sort of follow the stem of the cherry, it's looking for pixels that sort of fit in with that theme. It's very similar to select subject. Select subject works when you're looking at a picture and there's only one thing on it, but when we have a whole worksheet of papers here or of photos here, you can't exactly expect select subject to pick out what you want it to pick out. So that's why quick selection is almost similar to that, but can be more defined. So now that I've got my cherry, I can come up, come over, come down, and with this particular piece right here, I'm really done with this. So I can click select, deselect, and really all I want to do right now is I just want to hit the X, and when it asks me if I want to save, I just want to say no, don't save. I want it to stay like it was. I don't want anything I've just done, any of these items that I've taken out, I don't want anything to be saved. So I'm going to hit don't save, and now that worksheet will be exactly the way it was before. So I forgot to name my last two items. Of course, the last one is a cherry, and the one before that was a blueberry. And all I have to do is click on the layer, and I know. For now, I'm going to deselect, and I'm not going to do anything else to this for now. I've named it Mrs. C, Mr. Produce Practice version 1. I haven't put them together yet, but I have at least taken all of those pieces from the other worksheet and carried them to this one. So in my next video, I'll do some little arranging here, and then you will get to practice this as well, but you'll also get to create something that's going to look really cool with a background and all different things to it. So we're going to stop here and have fun.